Hey everyone, it is Monday. You know what that means? We start off strong and we bring on Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I missed it. I should have said Happy New Year. This is our first discussion.
Yeah. It's funny. Happy New Year. It's a Monday, new week, new year, new month, the whole
Yeah,
nine yards.
the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Well, let's come out swinging, right? Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book that I think the last time I saw it is sold 30 million copies, just some
Wow.
astronomical number. And obviously, Robert Kiyosaki and Kiyosaki have taken that book, seminal book, great book, changed my life, into lots of other things. But I want to focus just on Rich Dad Poor Dad because I've read it maybe 30, maybe 40 times by now. And I actually think for all the things that are right with it, there's actually a lot of things wrong with it. And I think a lot of people, I think there's a lot of things wrong with it. And B, I think a lot of people don't read it correctly. And I think you and I have talked about it casually. But topic number one today is going to be what's wrong with Rich Dad Poor Dad? What do you think?
hmm Okay, let's do it, man. So, what's on your mind with it? What do you
Well, I
see
think
that's wrong?
Well, I think the first thing is a lot of people read the book. At least, okay, I think you can really read the book and think two things, and we're on the opposite sides of this. I read that book and I want to be Robert and Kim,
hmm
right? And that could take you so far. However, you have shared multiple times that you read the book and you're like, I want to be Rich Dad. I mean, I got to tell you, that never even popped in my mind. I don't know what I missed. You said that to me the first time like 3 episodes ago, and I'm like, I am such an idiot. So I'm curious. I just want to talk about that because a lot of people
I
miss it.
wouldn't say that. It's just interesting because I've never heard anybody else say that either. I'm the
Mm.
only one that's ever said that I know of, and I tell everybody that, and I'm sure there's other people that read it and saw the same thing. And then the other thing is a lot of people read it and they get real estate investing out of the book, and that's how they see it versus what I saw it. So I didn't see it as a real estate book. I saw it as a build businesses to generate cash flow to invest in other assets. Rich Dad is the one who owned the businesses. Everybody came to him. So that's just what I saw, and it's where I was. So I'm a natural born entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I've been doing it since I was a kid. And what I mean by that is like a lot of people did stuff as kids, lemonade stands, cutting grass, this, that, and the other. What I really mean is the mindset of an entrepreneur, which we're going to get into that later. I learned how if I wanted something, go create the money to buy it. So that's what I learned. That's why I call myself a natural born entrepreneur. I was taught at a very young age, if you want something, don't ask me for it, go make money to pay for it from my parents. That's what my dad taught me. So I knew don't ask him for money. If I wanted money, I needed to go out and make some money and pay for it.
That's awesome. So again, so I think we're going to hit the real estate one next, but let's really key on, because again, right, I've
Mm-hmm.
read Rich Dad Poor Dad so much I can almost, I almost quote it. Um, so so you read that book in I can still remember different parts of the book, right? Robert sitting in the office watching Rich Dad as people
Mm-hmm.
came in, right? I can
Yep.
picture it now. And now I can see what you're seeing. It's like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be the kid in the corner. I want to be the guy behind the desk.
Yeah, not because I want to be this, whatever, but that's where the opportunities came from.
Right.
And he was mentoring everybody. So he was teaching Robert, he was teaching Robert's friend,
Yeah.
he was teaching these other people, but that's where the businesses, the opportunities, that's where everything came from. And I was like, I want to be Rich Dad. And that's what I did. And I mean, that's what I did. I mean,
Yeah.
people came to me, I had the office and, literally I lived it out and then I reinvested in other assets. The interesting thing is, I think with that book, I think more people in the W-2 world, employee sector, read that book and read it from that standpoint. I'm an employee, my income's limited, so I've got to move from the employee to self-employed, from self-employed to business owner, from business owner to investor.
Right.
So people look at the cash flow quadrant and they get kind of locked into that, and then that takes you down the one path of,
Yeah.
buy property. That's because that's what Robert did, because
Yeah.
he didn't really start businesses either, although the Rich Dad, education company is his business, but his whole thing was more, and he had a few other little things like the Velcro wallet company and stuff
Yeah.
that he kind of played with. Yeah. But it was more real estate than it was business. Whereas I was always looking at it from the perspective of Rich Dad's the one who's got it going on. I want to know what he knows.
Yeah. I never saw that. It never dawned on me. The one thing I will say in the cash flow quadrant, I knew I wasn't going to be a small business or a big business. For me, it was about going, how can I go from the employee to the investor, right?
Right.
That's how, at least I made that connection, right? I was going to go from there to there. Um, and that's what I did.
Well,
And
I
then,
knew for me, so I had no college education. I
mm,
wasn't making a lot of money. So
mm,
for me, the only solution was I had to start businesses. That's the only way I was going to make enough money to
interesting.
live how I wanted to live and to do what I wanted to do. Because I mean, I was a $10, $15 an hour employee until I started managing restaurants, and I was making 30 to 50 grand a year, which I mean, back in 1995 wasn't, a terrible salary, but it's not enough to have anything left over to invest.
Yeah.
You
It's,
got
yeah.
nothing left with 2 kids, a house, car payments, you got nothing left.
Yeah.
So after taxes, I mean, if you're making back then, I mean, it's not a whole lot different now, I mean, if you're making 100 grand a year now after taxes, it's not a lot left,
Nothing
you
left.
know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so for me, that was the only path. I had to create businesses in order to generate what I wanted so that I could invest.
Yeah. Then, the other point again, we're saying, I'm using the word wrong very loosely. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm using that very loosely. Again, it's a seminal book. It changed my life, all that stuff. The other thing you said is absolutely correct, right? You read that book, or at least I read it from a W-2 mindset, and I saw real estate as my thing, right? I came to that book from a very depressed state. I had just lost about 150 grand in the stock market, more money than my family had ever seen. I lost in the matter of a month, 5 weeks, totally depressed. So one of the things, I came to that book, I was hungry. I was hungry. I was starving, and I didn't know I was starving, I guess I would say. And that book sparked something I had never thought of, which was rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're right. I took that as like, okay, I'm going to go do that next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a
The,
lot of people do, a lot of people that are in the real estate world, read that book, and that's how they view it.
yeah.
So my viewpoint was, just a little bit different, but that's what clicked with me in that book. And again, I did it. I just went and did it.
Yeah.
And, I continued to educate myself. I read his other books. I read
Mhm.
every rich dad book there was, the real estate book, the, tax and accounting book. I mean, all of it.
Yeah. Me too.
Bought the game, I
Yep.
had my kids, had let them read it, started giving that to people I knew. But what's funny is I gave that book out to hundreds of people in my lifetime. None of them have done with it what I did, or you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's another topic of a video, like you said, that book changed your life. That book didn't change your life. Okay. The ideas in the book gave you the ability to change your life through taking action.
Yeah.
You changed your life.
That's
The
fair.
book just opened your mind to what's possible, but you still got to go do the work. I've given that book to hundreds of people, didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. And again, I think that's a very valid point. And I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I came to that book starving, and I didn't know. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the raw meat. I was like, oh, I'm going to go do that. Cause you're right. Read that book and really tell me it tells you how to do real estate. It doesn't. It tells you about a condo in Hawaii that
Yeah.
didn't face the ocean, and it should have. And then it talks about her condo in Portland or Beaverton or wherever the hell it was. But there is no how to. And that's why I wrote
All right.
that book, was because, okay, I read it. It changed my life. But now let's go write a true 15-year history of how you bought it, what changed, what worked, what didn't. And oh, by the way, I happen to invest through a crazy up market, the real estate depression, hedge funds coming in and screwing with the market. That book has history in it. Not Rich Dad
Mm-hmm.
Poor Dad doesn't have any history.
Yeah, yeah. I'd have to reread it again because it's been a while, but I think he talks about maybe a small multifamily unit at some point and different things. But yeah, it doesn't give you a whole lot of how to. It's just the ideas and the concepts, just like business. It didn't tell me how to go start a business.
Yeah.
I just did.
Yeah. One of the most seminal moments that was quoted forever, I don't hear it quoted a lot more anymore, was your house is not an asset,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or your home is not an asset.
Right.
When you read that, what did you think? Did that kind of feel odd to you when you read that the first time?
I understood the concept, and during the time that I read it, I could agree with it to a certain point because I bought my first house in 1990 and I sold it in 1995 for about what I paid for it. So it
Wow.
didn't really make me any money at the end of the day because that's kind of the real estate market was a little bit depressed.
Yeah.
And then I bought my second house, along that 97 when I moved to the Outer Banks. And that's about when I read it. So I understood what he was saying because that's the time we were in. Real estate wasn't appreciating, greatly, but talk to my grandparents who bought their house for, $20,000 back in the 30s or 40s, whenever they bought it, and ended up selling it at the end of their life for 200,000. Is that a good investment or is that a liability?
Yeah.
So, so it's all in how you look at it. But I guess at the end of the day, what he was saying is whatever takes money out of your pocket is a liability. Whatever puts money in your pocket is an asset. So that clicked with me, and it's good debt, bad debt. It's kind of what he was talking about. And the mindset of the middle class, we did that episode last week of buy as much house as you possibly can, max it out, because that's the best investment you can ever make. Now, that's not correct always.
Oh, yeah.
You have to buy under market value or be able to add value in order for, a house to be a good investment. And we've all learned from 2008 and 9, I mean, houses were generally going up pretty much every year until that point. And then bam. And now we've gotten back, and now we're seeing hyperinflation in housing. It's going to deflate, and it's going to go backwards at some point when the interest rate environment changes, if and when that does happen. So real estate's going to crash again at some point, in the housing market. The housing market will crash. The question is when and to what degree, will it go? So it's all supply and demand. Every market, has a price. Every market is made by supply and demand, Bitcoin, gold, equities, and it's all driven by Fed policy, interest rates.
Yeah. The other thing I thought I would ask you here is, again, what we've read about Robert Kiyosaki, and again, what we've read and what we may have heard, would you call him a natural entrepreneur as well? Right. He went to military, then he was a ship captain, but he seemed to always be starting businesses. No?
I don't think so, because again, he went the traditional route before he fell into, well, I don't know. So I don't know. I'm just asking. I mean, that'd be an interesting question. I mean, I don't remember him talking about his childhood, although I guess he said that was his friend's dad that they grew up around. So he learned from him at a young age.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe he was, because he did do the wallet thing. They lived, on the beach for a while. They were homeless. Again, I don't know how much of that's true and how much is story, because a lot of that book is just story. Yeah. Even the whole rich dad analogy, I think I don't even, yeah. I don't know if that was a real thing or just an analogy, or, he said, I had a friend whose dad was this, but anyways, I'm not even sure where that stands, but, I need to go back and reread that book at some point, but I think, I guess he was an entrepreneur from a certain degree. The question is, when did it hit? Was he doing it as a kid? He was definitely learning, but I don't know if he was actually out doing it, making money as a kid, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. When I asked that question, I had one answer, but as I listened to you, I think I've changed my mind. I think he caught lightning in a bottle, right, with that book. And then I think he had a bunch of coaches or mentors or maybe advisors might be the right word, advisors helping him go that direction. Because clearly he's, I'm guessing, worth hundreds of millions of dollars by now, just given everything they've done over the last several decades. I think if that book doesn't come out, it's not worth anywhere close to that. I think the book was
I don't know. Yeah, it's that's hard to say. That was a big part of his journey and where opportunities were created and following that rich dad path. Yeah, which is what he did. It's funny because he didn't really go down the real estate path. It was more of the entrepreneurial rich dad path.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I just wanted to ask you that. That's kind of episode 1 for today. I guess in closing, would you, if somebody watching this hasn't read it, would you give it a thumbs up to read it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'd read it from the perspective of all angles, so understand fundamentally what it's trying to teach. And I don't know if it's been updated or revised, for the current environment. And then there's other books in the series as well that are really good. He's got some real estate books and some tax books and, things like that.
Yeah. The one book that I read that I actually liked more than Rich Dad, Poor Dad was it's not talked about a lot. It was the one with him and his wife on the cover on horses called Retire Young, Retire Rich. That's the one I read. Actually, it was my first LLC was RYRR Holdings because of that book.
I'll be darned. Yeah, I read that one. I read Prophecy. I read, the Rich Kid, Poor Kid. I read he's got a sales book with that guy. I can't remember who that was, but he's done different books. Keith Cunningham, stuff with him.
Ken McElroy.
Ken McElroy. Yeah. So I've read all those, the ABCs of real estate. Yeah.
Me too. All right. Well, that's and again, I would give it a thumbs up too, but realize what you're getting. To me, it's more of a mindset book. read
Mhm.
it from both sides. Now that, I'm probably going to read it again. I'm going to try to read it from Rich Dad's perspective because I've never done
Yeah,
that.
the end of the day is you got to be an investor.
Yeah,
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about assets, liabilities, understanding that, and understanding that you have to move from the employee quadrant to, the self-employed, to the business owner, to the investor.
perfect.
And that's who Rich Dad was. So I just went right for that. Why just skip everything else and just go right for that?
You're awesome, Greg. Thank you very much for today. That's topic number one.